Welcome to today's episode of the Daily Coffee Pro Friends. For those of you who have never tuned in before, I'm Lisa Farr, and we are talking today on episode 23 about being a part of the solution. And today's episode of the Daily Coffee Pro is inspired by Felipe Croce, who I just finished a podcast episode with for the main podcast, the Map It Forward podcast. We talked for 2.5 hours about so many delicious things. The coffee supply chain, and we talked about the challenges that are facing us in the cafes as well as on the farm. We talked about the idea that being an entrepreneur is exceptionally challenging. We talked about what the specific challenges entrepreneurs face in the coffee industry. All of this are the kinds of things that we are on a daily basis presented with as coffee professionals. And our path forward can go, in my mind, one of two ways. Actually, three ways. Path one, we can do nothing. Path two, we can sit here and come up with a lot of great ideas and still do nothing. Path three is that we could sit here, identify what the challenges are, look for the solution ahead. We can sit in the discomfort of knowing how difficult it is going to be a part of that solution. And then we can choose to ignore that and go ahead with it anyway. Because to fix what's going on right now with the coffee supply chain and with the front end of our coffee supply chain, and what I mean by that is what's going on in the farms, but as well what's going on in cafes and roasteries, etc., it's going to be a big ask. But the biggest ask and the biggest challenge is going to be, how do we get the coffee drinking community around the world to start understanding the challenges that we're experiencing as an industry and as a supply chain? Let's deep dive into that. How do we get the coffee drinking community in our local communities to understand that the reason we need to be paying more for coffee is so that we can ensure the viability of and the sustainability of our supply chain? That's the challenges ahead of us. How do we get roasters who are making the biggest chunk of the money in our supply chain to start reinvesting in the farms that they are buying coffee from, so that the farmer is being paid more at a farm gate price? Remember the difference between farm gate and FOB and landed. So farm gate is the price that the farmer is getting paid. The FOB is the farm gate plus everything in between from the time the farmer gives up his crop or sells his crop to the free on board that's on board the ship. So all of those incidental costs are included there. And then you've got the landed price. So that's the price that it's going to cost for the exporter to get it to the country that it's landing in. So these are the challenges that we have to convince the general public need to change. We have to take on board the responsibility of helping the general public understand that we are in somewhat of a pivotal turning point in the coffee industry. Either they are complicit in horrible farming practices like slavery, sex trafficking, devastation to agriculture, and horrible farming practices that are just raping the planet, or they are complicit in turning the tide and investing in a part of the coffee supply chain that has long-term viability, that does no harm or does much less harm. We can never know whether it does no harm at all, but it does much less harm than the commodity market. We want to make sure that we want to let them know that they're being complicit in paying farmers more so that they have better lifestyles, they have better quality of life. We want to make sure that roasters are also helping cafes by dialing back their profit margins just a wee bit so that cafes have a little more wiggle room in the numbers, so that the coffees that they buy are paying more for coffee is more attractive to them. They're more like, that sounds counterproductive, but let me explain. We want cafes to buy coffee that's been responsibly sourced. We all want that. The only way we're going to get cafes to buy coffee that's more responsibly sourced is if we can get it to them for a cheaper price. And the reason we need to do that is because they can't charge much more than what they're charging right now. The consumer won't pay it. So the roaster's going to have to take a little bit of a hit so that the cafe can invest in that sustainable buying practice. If the roaster is taking a little bit of that hit so that they're not making $6 a pound, and they're able to buy better quality coffees with the choices that they're making, and coffees that are sourced responsibly and paid for responsibly, all of a sudden what we're doing is we are making a case for a healthier supply chain. And all of that requires every one of us to be a part of the solution. It requires every one of us to make the difficult choices that need to be made and not go for the easy, shiny options all the time. If you read Map It Forward's Instagram stories today, we have decided that we will be posting the C market price on a daily basis in an effort to raise awareness of what the C market is. We've also today on our Instagram stories made some suggestions about how you can, as an employee of the industry, have a say with your employment choices of how you can sway the coffee supply chain buying practices. And a lot of people think like, what can I do? I'm just a barista, or I'm just a roaster, or I'm just a cafe owner. I'm not buying green coffee. You can have a say with your career choices. You can have a say with your buying philosophies. If you are going for a job with a cafe, find out what the buying philosophy that they have is. What work have they done to ensure that the coffee that they're purchasing has been paid a fair price to the farmer? Hold them accountable to that research. Go and do your own research yourself. This is going to be a way that you can ensure that the places you're choosing to work are not complicit in the demise of our industry. If you're a cafe owner, choosing to work with roasters who are making a concerted effort to buy coffee after coffee after coffee that is sourced responsibly, that is paid a fair price for. You then have a story to tell your customers subliminally. You do not have to be in their face telling them that story, but it can be on your website, it can be through your social media, it can be on your packaging and on your cups. You can have that story up in your cafe, you can leave pamphlets, you can have it in like an annual media release that you have. This is a great way for you to have shit to talk about to your customers. They give them a reason to want to support your business, because everybody loves to spend their money somewhere where it's going to make a difference. This is the time in history to do that. So be a part of the solution. I am giving you options in ways that you can use your career choices and your buying choices as a way to send a message to people who may be involved further down the line in the actual buying practices of green coffee and of the way that people get treated at the back end of the supply chain. We have a choice here and we can play a pivotal role. I hope that that helps. And to Felipe Croce, thank you for a wonderful conversation on today's episode of the Map It Forward podcast. You're a fucking legend. I can't wait to be working with you for Elixir. We've got some great coffees coming up from Felipe. If you happen to be going to SCA next week and you see him, stop him, say hi, shake his hand. He's doing great things for coffee farmers all over the world. We need more people like you in the industry, Felipe. Thank you again. And to everyone who's watching, thank you for all the support. I'm honestly so honored that you guys are loving what my team and I are doing here on Map It Forward, and it means the world to me. So peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day.